Welcome to the Furious Stiles Podcast. I am your host, Furious Stiles. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? We about to get into it, y'all. Hey, yeah. Let's go. At the Furious Stiles Podcast, you will hear different perspectives from myself and my guests on music, life, and everything in between. You know? Yeah. Yeah. Furious Stiles. Let's go. Yeah, that's one heck of an applause to come into the new show with. Today, we are talking about 10 rap songs that told a great story. This is the Furious Stiles Podcast. I am your host, Furious Stiles. And just like I just mentioned, we are going to talk about some songs that told some great stories by some great storytellers. Some legendary MCs to put it down for the culture. But before we get into that, I always want to start off talking about an artist or something that I'm listening to right now. And this particular brother I'm going to talk about, I mentioned him on a previous podcast when I talked about my top 25 MCs featuring my brother, the Sour Grapes. And he was an honorable mention because in that particular episode, we were talking about the top 25 MCs, but I did him as an honorable mention because I have him in my top 50. So I'm going to talk about this brother today because he's got a new offering out. And it came out towards, we're at the beginning of a new year, but it came out towards the end of last year, which wasn't that long ago. This brother's name is Nick Grant. Representing South Carolina, and let me tell you something. When you talk about a guy with some true lyrical ability, this is one of the names that if I'm ever in a discussion with anybody, I gotta bring this brother up because I don't want to compare him to any other MCs because he has a distinct voice. You know him when you hear him, but I'll just say that he holds his own with the elite MCs. Nick Grant has got a new album out called Sunday Dinner. And I'll be honest with you, this particular album, it's got to be one of the most important projects to have come out in 2023 because the story, today's episode is about great rap songs with storytelling. This whole album is storytelling. He's basically just getting into the life of a young brother from South Carolina, and just the pictures that he paints from song to song. I mean, he pretty much just hits every aspect of life on this album. And with songs like Count Your Blessings, let me tell you, my ears perked up when I heard all that lyricism on there. You talk about a guy who has perfected the double entendre, metaphors, and man, he's a lyrical beast, man. So I definitely want you all to check him out. That's one of my favorite MCs, man. And yeah, definitely that Count Your Blessings song. I know he's got some singles out there right now, and he hasn't released Count Your Blessings as of yet, but that's definitely a song that he should put out. And but yeah, check that album out, Sunday Dinner. And he has a complete movie to go along with this album that's on YouTube. So check out Nick Grant, y'all. All right, so we're going to get into 10 rap songs that told a great story. And we're going to start it off with the late, great, Notorious B.I.G. Now, we all know this guy as a legend. And he has a particular song called Ends Bleed. Now, when you hear me say the letter N, you know that I'm referring to the N word. So, that way you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, Ends Bleed is comes from his album Life After Death, which was his second album after Ready to Die. And this particular song, Ends Bleed, was produced by Carlos Brody, who actually is from my neck of the woods. For those who know me, you know I'm from the M. And Carlos Brody is from a suburb of the M. Then you've got Stevie J, Nishim, Myrick, and Diddy are all producers on this. Now, this particular song, the subject matter is basically 3 full verses of a street tale regarding a drug deal between Biggie, Arizona Ron, and some guys in a Range Rover. It's Biggie just, man, I'm gonna tell you, this is one of our greatest storytellers in rap, because he didn't leave anything on the table. I mean, he pretty much just gives you, he describes everything that's going on with this situation just from beginning to end, just very, it's very descriptive the way that he talks about everything. You can see it. It's almost like nowadays we have like audio books and we have podcasts where people tell stories and whatnot, and he literally sounds like an audio book telling a story with this song. The last verse is very cinematic because it has like all these real cool sound effects. It's got people yelling, it's got doors slamming, gunshots, just all kind of things going on, man. It's like this particular song, in my opinion, it's almost not even like Biggie wrote a verse. It's like Biggie wrote a script. That's how ill this song is. And then of course the song's called Ends Bleed because when you listen to the chorus, it starts off with ends bleed just like us. Picture me being scared of an end that breathed the same air as me. So basically that lets you know what the title is all about. It's basically Biggie saying, hey, look, dudes out here are human just like I'm human. No, I shouldn't be afraid of anybody. If I got to get out here and get it, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to be afraid of doing what I got to do to survive. So nobody out here is bigger than me and better than me. They're human just like I'm human. They bleed just like I bleed. So that's basically what he's talking about in this song and in the chorus. So guys, give it up for the first song we're talking about today from the legendary Notorious B.I.G., Ends Bleed. Love it, man. Love it. The next song is by a legendary group that is still doing their thing to this day, still being an inspiration to artists out there. When I think of this particular group, I think of their legacy being continued by artists that got that hardcore voice, that growl, like a Scarlip or a City Morgue. But yeah, Onyx, y'all. They got a song called Rob and Vic, and this comes from their second album. Actually, you know what? It's actually their third album called Shut 'Em Down. This song was produced by Keith Horn, and the subject matter about it, it's actually, the song, Onyx has 4 members in it. Fred, Sticky Fingers, Fredro, Sonny Caesar, and then it was Big DS, rest in peace to him. But this particular song is just being performed by Sticky Fingers and Sticky Fingers' real brother, X1. And rest in peace to that brother, because he actually passed away as well. The cool thing about this particular album is X1 kind of became a part of Onyx. So he was on a lot of the songs for this album. And he and Sticky Fingers shine big time on this Rob and Vic song. They're both portraying 2 brothers that turn out to be stick-up kids. And so it's, when you listen to the emotion and the voices, I mean, you talk about, it's not even just brothers that's rhyming or rapping. These brothers are literally voice acting. I mean, this song is insane, y'all. I mean, it kind of, every time I listen to it, I get like chills on I get chills every time I listen to it, man, because It just comes across as being so realistic. And one of the cool things is if you pay attention to the hook, you'll find some Easter eggs in there because the hook almost kind of tells you how the story is going to end up playing out. So, pay attention to that hook. But guys, check out Onyx, Rob, and Vic. Ill, ill, ill. This next particular group is a group that, I'll just say this. When I was really young, I was able to listen to your hammers and your kid and plays, and my parents were fine with that, right? But once I got to a particular age, I was able to listen to things that were a little bit more PG-13. And these particular brothers, they really didn't curse a whole lot in their music and weren't too explicit in their music at all. They would just tell stories. These brothers reigned from Queens, and they would talk about the life that they lived, and they would just tell stories too. The group that I'm talking about, y'all, is almost like the beginning of just real hip hop for me, and that group is A Tribe Called Quest, y'all. We got to talk about this song that they have called 8 Million Stories. And this was this was a solo song by Phife Dawg. And this comes from the album Midnight Marauders. And just as a side note, this is just something I've got to mention. And this is a song, this is just a little side note, and we'll get back to 8 Million Stories. Just remember this, that I told you this, if you've never listened to Midnight Marauders. Midnight Marauders contains what I believe to be one of the best hip-hop songs I've ever heard, in a song called Keep It Rollin'. And I'm just going to keep it right there. I'm not going to go too further into that. We're going to get back to the 8 Million Stories song, but just remember what I said. Midnight Marauders has one of the best hip-hop songs I have ever heard in my entire life, with a song called Keep It Rollin'. And speaking of being ill, going back to this 8 Million Stories album, this was produced by Skef Anselm. And the story, the subject matter of this particular song is basically Phife telling a bunch of stories in 2 verses. And all of the stories end up with the same resolution, which is no matter what Phife does or tries to pursue, he ends up in an unfortunate situation. So it's a lot of the stories are funny, and it's a very the beat sounds really mysterious, so you're always kind of wondering what's going to happen next. And if I really pay attention to it, or if the listener really pays attention to it, you basically get a new story from Phife every 2 verses. So he's talking about a lot. And let's see here. I wanted to mention the chorus kind of furthers Phife Dawg's trials and tribulations. He keeps saying that he's having problems in the chorus, and then you actually got Q-Tip in the background saying, "Help me out now, help me out, y'all." So the chorus kind of really lets you know that Phife is really going through it on this day. Another thing I wanted to mention, this is just something that I don't really know 100%, but at the time of this song coming out, I remember New York City having about 8 million people in that whole metropolitan area. So I wonder if he called this 8 Million Stories because at the time, New York City had 8 million people living there. So I don't know. I don't even know if I just think that that's peculiar, but maybe he was thinking like that. So as a guy like me who was always into keeping up with NYC, I knew that was the population of the city at the time. But guys, that is A Tribe Called Quest, 8 Million Stories. And we got to talk about somebody, guys. But it's almost commercial time. I guess we'll go ahead and get it started talking about this particular MC before the commercial runs. Actually, well, let's go ahead and let this commercial come on up so we're not in the middle of what I've got to talk about on this next one. We'll be back after this commercial, y'all.
Furious Stiles.
Yeah. We about to get into all things Furious Stiles, y'all. Listen up. Let's go. Hey, yo. Go to furiousstiles.com for all things Furious Stiles. We got music, beats, merch. But if you want to go directly to the merch, then go to furiousstylesclothing.com. We got hats, shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, bags, everything you need, baby. We are now being sold on Amazon, eBay, Etsy. Just Google us. We're on Instagram. We have a Facebook shop. But if you want to find out more about Furious Stiles himself, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Let's go! All right. As you heard on the commercial, make sure you go to furiousstiles.com and furiousstylesclothing.com. Got a lot of goodies, good things over there. So anyway, let me get back to my mysterious sound effect. The reason why I do that is because I'm actually about to talk about an MC that if it wasn't for Sean Price and Nas, this would be my number one MC. But, you know, Sean Price is my guy, Nas is my guy, but this is my other ill MC, and he goes by the name of Ras Kass, y'all. Representing the West Coast, you talk about lyricism. I talked about Nick Grant earlier, and I would say that people like Nick Grant, you know, they have grabbed the torch and have run with it. But before there was a Nick Grant, there was a Ras Kass. When you talk about lyricism, you talk about metaphors. This brother has a song called Nature of the Threat, and it comes from his album Soul on Ice, which Soul on Ice is the name that this was named after a book by a Black Panther from back in the day. Not the cartoon, not the comic book, but a Black Panther revolutionary from the 60s. A brother by the name of Eldridge Cleaver wrote a book called Soul on Ice. And Ras Kass named his album after that. And this particular song, Nature of the Threat, was produced by a guy by the name of Voodoo. And let me tell you, this is a 7 minutes and 43 second song about the beginning of mankind until present day. This brother literally talks about life from beginning to end or beginning to now, and he puts it in 7 minutes and 43 seconds. I mean, that's a long song, but there's so much information. He's got so much to say, and it's so interesting, the stuff that he's talking about, that you don't even realize that it's 7 minutes and 43 seconds. Many consider this to be one of hip-hop's greatest rap songs ever. I mean, there's not too many hip-hop heads out there that don't know about this song, but there are some that might not have gotten into this album or maybe don't know about Ras Kass like that. But you definitely need to know about Nature of the Threat. And I'll just say this. This song could be the groundwork for the curriculum of a college class. Yeah, it's that serious, guys. And there's no hook. It's just a long verse filled with Ras Kass and a whole bunch of research that he did. A lot of reading this brother did to write this song. So, like I said, he starts off in Africa, ends up in Europe, ends up in America. I mean, the man, listen to Nature of the Threat by Ras Kass, guys. There's nothing else to be said. You really just need to go listen to the song. It's that big of a deal. And we're going to keep it West Coast. Now, I tend to talk a lot about 90s hip-hop and early 2000s, but let's get into some mid 2000s, like somewhere around 2012. There's a brother that comes from the West, and the ill thing about this guy is that I would say that this is the type of MC that you do not take for granted. You know, it's a great time to be alive when you got MCs like this brother around doing his thing. And this brother goes by the name of Kendrick Lamar. He has a song, and it's really a 2-for-1. It's really 2 songs on one track, and it's called Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. It's from the album Good Kid, Mad City. It was produced by Sky Hutch, from Pac Div. Shout out to Pac Div. Man, shout out to Pac Div. And Soundwave. Soundwave, I believe, is associated with TDE, which is the label that Kendrick Lamar was on. And Soundwave is kind of like one of those producers that is associated with TDE. But guys, let me tell you something. This particular song, this is one of the greatest pieces of music I've ever heard, and I really mean that. I'll say this: I'm a music connoisseur. I don't just listen to hip hop. I'm a big fan of jazz and classical and all kind of things. I put this song up there with my favorite jazz instrumentalist, Wes Montgomery. He has a song called My One and Only Love. It's one of my favorite pieces of work by him. A jazz singer, Nancy Wilson, has a song called Guess Who I Saw Today. One of the greatest songs I've ever heard. Tchaikovsky. I put this song up there with Tchaikovsky, which is a Russian classical composer. He has a song or a composition called Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy. A lot of y'all know it when you hear it. And my favorite metal band, System of a Down, Chop Suey. They got a song called Chop Suey, which I think is a masterpiece. I also put this Kendrick Lamar song up there with Tupac's Dear Mama. Yep. It's got that same emotion to it, man. It even though the message it will remind you more of Tupac's So Many Tears song, but it has that, it draws you in and has that same raw emotion that a Dear Mama has. And like I said, this song is a 2-for-1. It's 2 different songs that are connected because of their relevance to each other. So Sing About Me is one song. I'm Dying of Thirst is the second part. And the first song, Sing About Me, has 3 verses that each tell a different story. The first 2 verses have Kendrick talking to 2 different people who are unable to break a chain of negative tradition. That's the best way to describe it. Ironically, the third verse has Kendrick explaining how he himself is struggling with his own issues, even though he's trying to be there for others. I promise that this song it's gonna pull at your heartstrings, and ironically, there are some melancholy strings that are inside of the beat, and I don't know. I like to try to make some connection with pulling at your heartstrings, and then it's got these real emotional, melancholy strings in the instrumental as well. So I don't know that. I make a connection there because, you know, art is art and everybody interprets art in their own way. And that's how I see those instruments on the song. It represents some different emotions there. The second song, Dying of Thirst, further explains the stories. It seemingly provides an answer to these issues that everyone's having. And it's reiterated with a skit at the very end. And because this particular album has a storyline going through it from beginning to end, and that skit is part of the storyline. But it's also particularly, it explains or provides an answer for this particular situation in the story that's represented by these 2 songs. And man, let me tell you, I could talk about this song all day because his lyrics are pure poetry. I mean, he doesn't waste a bar. Not one bar does he waste. Every single bar. It's just very poetic. Metaphors, everything. But guys, I could talk about this song all day. I need a full podcast just for this song. So we're going to end it there, y'all. That's Kendrick Lamar, Sing About Me, I'm Dying of Thirst. One of the best, man. Speaking of one of the best, this is one of the illest lyricists the world has ever known, Nas. He has a song called One Love, and this is from his critically acclaimed first full-length album, Illmatic. And this particular song was produced by Q-Tip. Q-Tip is also on the hook as well. So Q-Tip is actually featured on here too. The subject matter of this song is the first two verses are letters to a couple of his people that got locked up in prison. So Nas. So when you listen to the performance on this record, Nas literally wrote his lyrics in the form of a letter. So when he's rapping, it sounds like he's reading a letter. And it's kind of like when you write letters to someone who's gone away to wherever they've gone away. Unfortunately, some people end up in prison. Some people might be somewhere on some military stuff or school, whatever it is. Whenever you write a letter, you always tell that person, you try to catch them up on what they've been missing. And it sounds really authentic, guys. I believe the first verse was written for one of his Queensbridge brothers by the name of Lakey the Kid. And in that first verse, Nas even mentions Cormega. And we all know Cormega, Queensbridge legend. Now, here's a fun fact about this song. The last verse was used for a scene in the movie Belly, where Nas's character is talking to this young brother on the bench in the projects, if y'all remember. If you've ever seen the movie Belly, when he's talking to that young brother, that whole scene comes from Nas's third verse in this song, One Love. So that's, just check that out, y'all. Check that out. Nas, One Love. And of course, we know the legendary Bob Marley was the first artist that we know of to have come up with a song where he's saying One Love. So that's got to be a nod to him as well. All right, this next MC, when you talk about underrated MCs, or if somebody ever mentions underrated to me, the first MC that's always going to come up for me is going to be Joel Ortiz. When you talk underrated, when you talk a guy that deserves way more flowers than what he gets, you're talking about Joel Ortiz, guys. Brooklyn's own. He has a song called 125, and he has many parts to this song, but this is part 4. This is the finale. So there's a 125, part 1, 2, and 3. But I'm specifically talking about part 4 today. Might be going a little bit over my time. Let me hit mute over here. All right. Let's see, where was I? Okay, so this particular song is from his album called The Brick, Bodega Chronicles. And this song was produced by a producer I'm not really familiar with named Ging. I think that's how you say it, Ging or Ginge. I don't know. I'm not really familiar with him. All I know is whoever that is, he really cooked up a nice beat, a very really good storytelling type of beat that you need to, you know what I mean, to really get into a story. So Joel Ortiz took full advantage of this beat. And real quick, just so you'll know, 125, the title basically represents 125th Street in Brooklyn. I used to hear about the 125 from Buckshot. Shout out to Buckshot from Black Moon. And he used to talk about the 125. So that's about. This is named after the 125th Street in Brooklyn. This is basically a coming of age story about perseverance. Joel Ortiz, he talks about making it out of his situation while doing what he loves, which is hip hop. He talks about getting through life without his father. And, he goes into he talks about his mom, just kids, everything. He gets into a whole lot of things in this song. And he rhymes for over 5.5 minutes straight without a hook. And he's very descriptive in the song. So a lot of people will relate to this story. And he's actually got a video for it as well. So you definitely got to check the video out too. The video, it keeps up with the song. I'll say that. I like the video a lot. When I heard this song, this was the first time that I knew Joel Ortiz was that dude for me. Like, because I already knew he was ill because I might have heard some songs here and there with him on it. But this was the first time when I was just like, yeah, this is that guy, you know? So, ironically, the subject matter of this particular song, the things that he's talking about, basically, like I said earlier, perseverance and trying to make it, doing what you love. I've actually got a future podcast on the way about that very subject matter. So I'm not going to say that this particular song might have inspired that podcast, but because I already knew that I wanted to talk about people doing their thing with music and not giving up on it and moving forward with it. But this guy perfectly depicts what I mean by sticking to what you want in life, and specifically with this hip hop and this music, you know, just keeping it moving. So guys, check out Joel Ortiz, 125 Part 4. It's one of my favorite MCs. All right, so we were just in Brooklyn. Let's go back to Queens. Nas, y'all. I got to talk about him one more time. It wouldn't be right if I talked about 10 rap songs that told a great story and I didn't talk about Nas's Second Childhood. He got a song called Second Childhood from his album Stillmatic, which I believe, and we'll see what kind of response I get from this. Y'all ready for this? That's my little mysterious song, or mysterious sound. Stillmatic is just as ill as Illmatic. Yep, I said it. Everybody likes to talk about Illmatic, and they would be right. Stillmatic is just as good. And this particular song was produced by DJ Premier, legendary producer. Matter of fact, let's drop a bomb for DJ Premier. The subject matter of this song, as a matter of fact, let me just say this before I even get into it. This is one of my favorite hip hop songs ever. Second Childhood by Nas, y'all. And let me tell you something. This song, it never gets old. I mean, it never gets old. It's a song that has 3 verses about 3 different coming of age stories that don't really end. The meaning of second childhood is basically people who kind of never grew up. And that includes Nas. He includes himself in that type of situation where it's like people who grow older, but they never really grow older though, if you know what I mean. So it's like you have your childhood and then you see this person getting older and it's like they're trying to relive their childhood again. It's like they've never really grown up. So that's got a really good message to it that a lot of people should definitely pay attention to, because there is a point in time when all of us gotta step it up in life and get on to bigger and better things and be there for our families and really be supportive of the people that we care about. And it's the Second Childhood song is basically just saying people that are basically still kids, you know, but just the picture that he painted was beautiful, man. The beat is so dope by DJ Premier. There's just, that song never gets old. It literally never gets old. So check that out, y'all. Nas, Second Childhood. Let's go back to Brooklyn. The Notorious B.I.G. Again. This guy's one heck of a storyteller, and we got to talk about his song called "Somebody's Gotta Die" from the album Life After Death. We spoke about Life After Death earlier. This song was produced by another person from my neck of the wood, by the same brother from my neck of the woods, Carlos Brody, Nice She and Myrick, and Diddy. The subject matter basically is, well, the song starts out with that sound of a vital signs monitor flatlining. If y'all are familiar with that, you've probably seen it in movies, shows, and some of you all unfortunately have experienced that in real life. So it starts out with that beep, that long beep of a flat line of somebody who basically is probably passing away. So you know this song is going to be ill, and when you start off with that. You also hear thunder and rain sounds from beginning to end, throughout the song. And this is basically 3 verses of Big getting revenge for his friend's death. Henceforth, the reason why the song starts out with that flatlining long beat sound, because that's basically represents Biggie's friend passing away, and then he's trying to go get revenge for him in this song. Now, lyrically, I don't want to give it away, but the end of the story is wild. It's wild. And it's ironic considering a line that Biggie says earlier. As a matter of fact, let me just quote this lyric without actually giving away the ending of this story. Like I said, it's another song by Biggie that literally sounds like a movie script. He says a line in there. He says, "See ends like you." He's talking to his partner that he goes to get revenge with. This is a guy he teams up with to go get revenge for their friend who got taken out. So he says, "See ends like you do 10-year bids, miss the end they want, and I'm gonna leave it right there. I don't want to give it away for those who might not have heard it, but that line right there, along with the rest of that line, without me giving away the story, it's there's irony in him saying that, considering how the song actually ends. So guys, check out Notorious B.I.G., aka Biggie, aka Big. Check out his song called "Somebody's Gotta Die," y'all. All right, and last on the menu for today, we've got another brother who we miss, who's gone. There's a lot of ill brothers on here, man. Rest in peace to all these guys, man. Biggie, Phife, X1, and now another brother who has passed away, who we miss, who was super talented, and he went by the name of Prodigy, y'all. Yes, sir. Rest in peace to this brother, man. Shout out to his family. I think he's got a daughter out there that does music. She does art. Talent apparently runs through the family. He's got a song called "You Can Never Feel My Pain," and this is, man, this song, it really hits hard, man. It hits hard. It comes from his album HNIC, which stands for Head, Inward, and Charge. And that is what I believe to be one of the best hip-hop songs or hip-hop albums ever. And that is a song, too. It's a title track called HNIC on there as well. This is produced by Rick Rude Lewis. And the subject matter, man, it's about Prodigy's battle with a sickness he's born with called sickle cell anemia. And the hook is a repeat of Prodigy saying, "You can never feel my pain." He's just basically trying to drive it into your head that if you haven't experienced this sickness, you just have no idea what he's dealing with. And I've actually personally known someone who has passed away with this as well. And yeah, it's a big deal, man. I mean, he really tells it like it is when it comes to this sickness. And I actually was interested just to kind of put some information out there, since Prodigy was really trying to get the word out there about this situation, just to let you know what his life has been like, and he just puts a lot of raw emotion into the lyrics, and just, man, he doesn't waste a line letting you know. He's very descriptive on what he's been going through with this sickness. And I looked up some statistics on this, and actually, as of 2 years ago, 7.74 million people have it worldwide. They've got sickle cell anemia, which is wild. Right now, somewhere between 70,000 and 100,000 Americans have it. And according to the NIH, the National Institute of Health, 1 in 500 Black Americans have it, which is significant, because those are big numbers for the community. And I will say this song hits way different now, considering P is no longer with us. And yeah, rest in peace to Prodigy, y'all. And check out You Can Never Feel My Pain. It's one of the illest, one of the dopest songs that you ever heard, but it's also got a message that you need to hear. And before we check out of here, y'all, for today's episode, let me just throw some honorable mentions out there real quick. I want to talk about Apollo Brown and Shay Noir. They did a collaborative album where Apollo Brown produced all the tracks. Shay Noir did all the raps. And they've got a song called 12 Hours. And Shay Noir told a really dope, really ill story on there. And that's on the album called As God Intended. And of course, this song was produced by Apollo Brown. Shout out to him. And shout out to her, because I believe Shay Noir is one of the most important MCs to have come out in a while. She's kind of a big deal, and she's representing upstate New York. Y'all definitely need to check that out. I got another couple of Biggie is he's something special, because I got 3 honorable mentions on here just from that brother. And he's got a song. He released this song called Warning. So these are honorable mentions. Suicidal Thoughts, which Warning and Suicidal Thoughts was on the Ready to Die album. And he's got a song called I Got a Story to Tell, which was on the Life After Death album. Warning was produced by Easy Mo B. Suicidal Thoughts was produced by Lord Finesse. And I Got a Story to Tell was produced by Buck Wild. So check those out. And last but not least, let's talk about Nori. Shout out to Nori, who is a podcaster now himself, with the podcast called Drink Champs. And of course, he was an MC before that. And he has a song with Nas called Body in the Trunk. And that's from his album Nore, which stands for Nori, which is an acronym for N-Words on the Run Eatin'. This song was produced by Dame Grease. And that's an ill song, guys. It's definitely got almost like a Goodfellas feeling to it. But guys, I've run over my time a little bit. Let me go ahead and get up out of here. Make sure y'all check me out on furiousstiles.com, furiousstylesclothing.com. Make sure you check out these songs that I'm talking about. I've noticed that since I've been doing the podcast, some people have been learning some things from what I've been talking about, checking out some songs, some albums, some artists that they didn't know about. And I'm glad to do that. That's what I'm here for. I'm loving this hip hop, loving this culture. And I just want to talk about it, man. I want to talk about the things that I like. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about what I don't like, because, why are we advertising for stuff we don't like? Because people do tend to talk about music and entertainment that they don't like. They talk about it all day long, and I'm just like, well, what do y'all like? so I just want to be I want to be that change. I want to be the guy that, whereas I might have discussions about some hip hop or some rap or music that might be questionable or stuff that I might not be feeling, but I want to spend a lot of time talking about what's dope. So, guys, I want to appreciate y'all for tuning in, checking me out on the podcast airwaves, if you will, and also with the video for those of you all who are checking out the video right now. And hey, that's it for today's podcast. and we out.
Furious Stiles.